but we like to record these workshops for all of those who, for whatever reason, can't participate, but would like to, you know, learn or get the information that we cover during each of these workshops. So again, welcome everyone. I'm Al Kushlikis with AHEC. We've got a very important presentation today by Norma Marshall from College of Muskogee Nation, especially nowadays, you know, the whole issue of stress that we're all experiencing with COVID-19. And so the idea of how the topic today is how you as instructors can help your students deal with stress. I know this is not strictly speaking a media topic, but it certainly transcends media, especially these days. And certainly we can have conversations about how we can build stress management strategies into instruction that do include media. So I think you'll agree that this definitely is a relevant topic, especially these days.
Al, I see that Reno is on, so probably start with her announcement, because I'm afraid once we get into the presentation and then into the discussion, it might take us.
No, you're right. You're right. Reno, are you there? Are you you're logged in?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there you are. Okay, great. So Reno is the director of our Ostanet Institute program, and she's got a quick announcement for you all. So go ahead, Reno.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to tribal college faculty. I have been sending many emails.
There is about business and
entrepreneurship.
Go ahead. I think they're muted now. Sorry.
Okay. If you check your email, you're likely to see a message from me about recruiting your students into the Ostanet Virtual Institute. We've been working on it, probably since we went into quarantine in March. And what we've built is a lineup of topics that I'll mention in a bit that amount to at least credits. And we're hoping that students who need the credits, who need to bolster their GPA or enhance their learning opportunities, would be interested in enrolling in the course. The credits would have to be credits that you confer at your college. Some of the topics include a mentoring program that happens throughout the Institute by Native faculty mentors, but also continues indefinitely because the students will enroll in the NRMN online mentoring program, specifically targeted to people interested in research. We'll also have courses in Indigenous research, public and behavioral health, career development, understanding intergenerational historic trauma, research skills, general lab and non-bench research skills, survey and data collection in tribal communities, nursing clinical research, mind and body wellness, which is a new thing in higher ed to help students manage their stress, and dynamics of COVID in Indian country. So in the email that I've been sending, and I know that your Gita and Al have copies as well that they might be able to share directly with you. The students will also take art ethics, which is equal to the CETA training that all researchers have to have in working with an IRB. And the students will get a certificate out of. All of these courses are free, and they're taught by faculty members from the University of North Dakota and the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Some of you may remember that when we had citizens that had Ebola, that they were quarantined at UNMC in Nebraska. We're also partnering with NNHRT. They have a series of videos that will run through November. SACNES, we've uploaded several of their videos on that are relevant to natives and to students interested in research. The native instructors that we're really proud of are top-notch people. Dr. Donald Warren, who some of you may know, is the director of InMed, and then Dr. Westcott, who's the assistant director of InMed. And also from UND is Nicole Redvers, and she does interesting research on the medical properties of choke cherries, or some of you may call it chokeberry. And then from, there's one more here, Melanie Nadeau, she's Turtle Mountain. And then UNMC brings in a whole slate of fantastic speakers. Dr. David Wilson, who's the director of NIH Tribal Health Research Office, Teresa Dameron, Dr. Ken Blansett, he's Cherokee and other tribes, and Regina Idoate, she's from the Cherokee Nation, and Lisa Prue Spellman, she's Rosebud Sioux. So there's a whole bunch of them. There's probably over 30 professors that are teaching these courses in biomedical and behavioral health. So some of the things we're hoping that your students will see as a great value to their education is money. First and foremost, students look at that. They'll receive a $1,000 stipend to cover the cost of their participation. For example, they may have need for daycare, transportation, and to pay for internet. This is an opportunity that the students could request credit for that would bolster their transcript and enhance their learning within their major. And a slate of science-based coursework that emphasizes the health issues of American Indians. It's also an opportunity to explore a career path to research. And there's many directions that a student could take to arrive at that point. The students are able to study at their own pace, but they must finish the program by October 31st. They will get a certificate of completion for the Art Ethics course, which is a great resume builder. From this group of 20 students that we hope will participate in the Institute, we will select the top 10 students and pay for their travel and lodging and meals and conference fees to attend a science, medical, or research conference anywhere in the country. So if you're interested, please get in touch with Al or Yurgita or myself, and I'll personally email all the application to the Institute and the mentoring brochure and some other screenshots of what the Praxis platform looks like that's hosting all of our coursework. So I really appreciate the opportunity to interrupt your learning and give you this little public service announcement. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Reno, very much. And we absolutely do encourage you all to encourage your students to sign up. It is a great opportunity, especially for students who are interested in a career in the health sciences. And there are those modules in the Praxis platform focusing on topics similar right there along with what we're talking about today: stress management, resilience. So yeah, and you can't beat the price where they actually pay you to do it. So so please do pass that along to your students when you can. Again, thanks, Reno, very much. So I guess we should get started now with Norma Marshall, who's presenting today about helping, as instructors, helping students deal with their stress. Norma, are you ready to start your presentation?
Yes, sir. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this very important sharing of knowledge and wisdom and our history and language and culture together. When I had spoken with Ms. Antoine, we were talking about how we help our students to heal and to manage stress. And I wanted to begin with some of the...
Okay, put it away. Please.
Can we make sure everybody who's on this call that you're on mute if you're not speaking, please? Sorry about that.
You're fine. Okay, so I have on the screen what we spoke with on our communication last week. And we are with the first medicine of the Muskogee people. There are components to the curriculum as we are learning what is important in our culture. And a lot of our students come with various backgrounds that sometimes are healthy and sometimes they're unhealthy. And so to get all of my students on the same page as we begin studying the language, one of the first words that I teach is wiwa, which means water. That's the original word for water for the Muskogee people. And in the midst of all of these things, our humor as Native people has to come into the arena of the classroom and our interaction on the sidewalks between the buildings and when we're in the stores in the communities. So a lot of what I place in the middle of the curriculum is our Native American humor. And Muskogee humor in particular is very unique. There was a gentleman who told me a story many years ago. He's an elder who passed away a few years back. But wiwa has figured into names from the homelands of our tribal towns. You know, that's our idolas. So that was the structure of our communities. So in the homelands, we had some names that were given to our communities. So when we were brought to Indian Territory on the forced removal, after we left the Fort Gibson Stockade close to Muskogee, Oklahoma, we went south to an area called Eufaula. And from Eufaula, we went down the trails that have now become the State Highway number 9 in Oklahoma. So along number 9 highway, you will find the names of some towns. And 75 highway, those are the footpaths that became highways later. So we have towns called Wewoka, Weelitka, Wetumpka, all coming from the water towns. Wewoka means barking water, Wetumpka means tumbling water, and Weelitka means running water. So this elder was telling me a very good story about the Wewa towns. And he said he and 3 other young men were riding in the car, and the county deputy pulled them over and wanted to talk to them. So in the conversation, he asked all of the young men in the car, "Where are you from?" And the driver said, "I'm from Wewoka." And he said, "Okay." And he said, "Young man in the front seat, where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Weelitka." And the guy in the back seat, he said, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from Wetumpka." So this elder said he didn't want to be left out. So when the deputy asked him, "Where are you from?" he said, "I'm from Wedustin." And so he incorporated that, you know, he wanted to be a part of the Wewood group. And that was, you know, something that our people understand here. You know, Dustin is just a small community that was originally Muskogee in our language. So he just included himself in the water towns. So, you know, that's part of how we get our students all on the same page. You know, laughter is a good medicine, and it's a healing medicine. And in this PowerPoint that I have of water, our first medicine, the next one is our It won't go, there it goes. Our Muskogee Elements. These are the 4 elements of the Muskogee people. And we do things in 4s, coming from the 4 cardinal directions of the wind, and from the 4 seasons, and from everything that happens in our lives. 4 is the average number. It's the main number that we observe. And so we have those elements of Wiwa, which is water, Igana, which is earth, Dotka, which is fire, and Hodali, which is wind. So knowing that we have water as the first medicine, that's listed as the first element. And to back this up scientifically, I always include that the earth is made up of pretty much 70% water, 3/4 of the earth is water. Even our bodies, about 70% of our body is made up of water. And we have that connection as the earth, the people, the plants, and the animals. We all have to have water. And Igana, the earth, that's our mother. I have a PowerPoint that I will show, which gives the male energy and the female energy to a lot of the things that our people knew before European contact. So that will reinforce having these elements as important to our life. Dotka, we must have fire. And Hodali, we must have the wind. We must have the air. And this is pictorial information that reinforces the teaching of this concept of the 4 elements. And then this next one will bring all of the names of water in some form. And I will just go through the names and the English translation. Wiwa, first medicine. Hobithi, fog. Inhifka, vapor. Wilitka, running water. Wiwohka, barking water. Witumka, tumbling water or sounding water. Wigewa, a spring or a well. Chahki, uhlatka, falls of water. Ohgala, waterfall. Oki Finogi, shaking water or land. In Fehni, a water course. Fehni Yikchi, rapids or swift currents. Fehni Munga, fountains of water. Hidodi, ice. Hidodi Fakko, snow. Hidodi Nifka, hail. Hidodi Hija, Jack frost, which is whitening the ground. Hidodi Hatchija, Jack frost as a blanket on the ground. Sijo, dew. Uski, rain. Dos Poposwa, tears or eye juice. Miski, sweat. So those are things that come to us as water terminology. And so this goes into the concept of water as our first medicine. Years ago, there was a drought, and the only access to water was the dew that fell on the leaves, and people gathered the dew from the leaves as water. So those are things that come into the lives of these young people that have never experienced these things. Okay, and I'm trying to get digitally, technologically on track. Let me get to my Word document. This is the one I was telling you about. My screen is paused. Hang on, how do I do this? Here we go. So these are the male energy and the female energy of our Muskogee names. Can you hear me?
We do, but we're not seeing the new screen. Are you sharing the Word document right now? We're still seeing the PowerPoint.
I'm sorry. Is it on now?
There you go. That's it.
Thank you. Muskogee Elements with the male energy and the female energy. These were words that came to us before European contact. So our first name is Hisakita Imisi, breath of life. This is the male energy. This is the father. And Hisakita Imisi is one of our names for our Heavenly Father, Father God. He gives us breath and he takes our breath. Our next word is Ujasa. Ujasa is someone who would basically be the owner as a grandfather who is the head of the family. And our young ones today will call their grandfathers Puja. And that is also the name that has gone to the wolf as he comes among our people, Puja, because he watches over us, he guards over us. Our next word is Poyafikcha. Poyafikcha is the spirit. This is what goes into the healing for our students as they manage stress and environmental factors that affect them, because sometimes when they come to the classroom, it's hard to learn if you have a lot of emotional baggage that you can't unpack. And so a lot of what I teach my students is we have to go to that place inside of us. And that's what Poya Ficta means. Because in our language, the body part Ficchi is the intestine area in our bodies. And that's where we feel a lot of our emotions. You know, people talk about gut feelings. And so we talk about Ficchi. And Poya Ficta is the spirit that resides right in that area under the rib cage. And as we're learning these things, we have one of our instructors teaches them the anatomy class, and she teaches the structure of the body, and you know, anatomy and physiology all come into one. So right under the rib cage, there's a little arrowhead called the xiphoid process. And right under that area is where we were told our spirits reside. So that's why, you know, it equates to that mainstream saying of gut feeling. And so the water has to come in and cleanse those things. The water has to come in and purify. And it's also part of our ceremonial grounds where a lot of our students connect to partake of the medicine ceremonies. And so all of those things go into that aspect of our spirit. That's where healing begins. And we have to purge those things that are toxic to us in that manner. The next word is Ohija. Ohija is the name that was given to our Heavenly Father. Sometimes people call him the Almighty. Sometimes people call him the Great Mystery, because he moves in mysterious ways among us. So before the ceremonial name came, he was known as Ohija. And during the naming of that he received at the ceremonial grounds, originally it was Ibofunga, which means he who rules over us, he who watches over us. And so our students recognize that in both our Muskogee churches and our Muskogee ceremonial grounds, and even into our chartered communities now, because some of our citizens do not have a connection to either the church or the ceremonial ground. Our next word comes to us as Igana, earth, female energy, the mother. And so as our students are learning these concepts, they begin to understand how things move in our physical realm. But we also have that spiritual realm as we become mature in our thinking critical thinking skills, our thought processes, and how we deal with stress levels, how we deal with a heavy load. Our next word is hodali. Hodali is the male energy, wind. And then we have wiwa as the female energy, the first medicine. Then we have totka, which is fire, which is a male energy. And hasi, the sun, is also male energy. And so as we understand these things, life becomes a little more it becomes a little easier to heal when we understand these things. The load becomes just a little bit lighter as we share and as we grow together. So we get to these places in our lives. I think if I close this out, it might be easier to work with. Okay, did that come off the screen? Oh no, did I close it?
You did. We see you now.
Okay, let me see if I can open this back up. Where's my screen share? Okay, here we go. I'm still working on being tech savvy, y'all.
No, you're doing great.
We have, this is my instructor lecture. Let me see if I can open it. For the online classes that we are teaching this summer. And this was for my advanced Muskogee language course. I generally begin with, get in here. I'm going to be talking to these PowerPoints for a minute if they can hear me. But I give them the Muskogee reading. And I don't think my sound is on this. Hang on. Oh, mercy. Did I mess something up? Y'all can see I'm not that savvy on this. I think it's in here. Here we go, right there. Come on.
Here.
There we go.
Negosi connected Jabakiros, Mont Edo Open Harvard Omnis. Negosi Sakidonis, Mont Edo Ajimbe Omnis. Negosi Usimanovi Imagine Enjambe Mundovis. Incosusawan is forfeit, not Yolongan, not Charlotte, Harvard Omnis. Chapopades Ajibojan, Ochi, Istin no Sidonis. Sokuji Haran Pavilonis. Negosi Imabiswa Hambida Hilionis. Negosi Hafi Hilionis. Salmon Archalim Ishi Ishahovilonis. Iski Fayat. Negosi Manetan in no occasion or not. Ichki Isti Tiboi Noni. If without was
And then this is the English translation for that piece. And then we'll talk about the characteristics of the bear and how it might transfer to humans.
While bear is mean and angry, and he goes about in the woods, he is big and he climbs trees. He climbs up to the leaves and eats up the honey. He digs with his claws, grabs up the roots, and eats them. Even the fields of corn he goes in and steals from people. He eats little pigs. His meat is good to eat. His hair fur is good. Winter clothing, people make. People hunt, and if they hurt the young bear cubs, the mother keeps fighting. Until death only does she quit.
And so in this reading of the animal stories from our second reader excerpts, We talk about the characteristics of the bear, and he wakes up, he's hungry, and his first thought is on the Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. He wants his basic needs met. And so without even thinking, he gets to the bees and eats up the honey, and then he grabs up the roots and eats those up, and he gets to the fields of corn and steals from people. So I ask my students, what is this stealing? What does that fit into? And a lot of the students will recognize that as being greed, and how those things come into a person's existence, maybe around that person. And so we deal with these human characteristics. Some of these are traits that we have to be careful to not let that hurt our lives. So that's part of that stress load that some of these students deal with. You know, sometimes, you know, they may not have their basic human needs met. And so we talk about our core values for the College of the Muskogee Nation. We talk about, you know, being meek and humble, and that's part of the humility, Eoskita. And then we talk about, you know, Hobosinga, having good sense and having wisdom. And so we start to talk about those things as we're going through these stories. And it brings to place for our students the importance of how we live together as Muskogee people in our world and in the world around us, you know, global society. So we talk about Anuksita, to steal and to be greedy. And how do we keep that from coming into the younger ones that are coming behind us? So it goes back to when we were on that forced removal from the homelands of current day Alabama and Georgia, part of Tennessee. The older people that were in the front would encourage the ones coming behind them. And they would say, Puyuba awat. Puyuba awat means those coming behind us, but they did not mean just those physical bodies behind them. They meant generations that were not yet born. And so we talk about leaving a legacy for the ones coming behind us. So our students have to get to a place where we're going to pass this on in a good way to whoever's behind us, the ones coming behind us. And so a lot of these animal stories that we teach from our second reader have to do with those things in particular. And what I do is I have the students to pick the areas that they want to translate from Muskogee English as was important to them.
You gotta put something on Grandpa's charge.
Excuse me? Hello? Are we still there?
Yeah, sorry, I just had to mute somebody. Please go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Okay, so those are things that come into the classroom and into the discussion with our students. And they have to be safe to be able to talk about these things. They have to feel comfortable to be able to bring this to the table. And so one of the things that I do encourage my students to do is to share. You know, we just have kind of a round table where we all just, you know, kind of share what's on our hearts and what we would have a question about that we've never, you know, our students may never have been able to speak openly about those things. So these are the kinds of course materials that I use to bring them to a place that they can talk about it. Another one, and just to break the monotony of too much school work, it just does, you know, because it does get to be a heavy load with a lot of assignments. One of the things that one of my students developed is the game rock, paper, scissors. Anybody familiar with that? We have, I put together what would be the items in Muskogee that would replace rock, paper, scissors. And I have the icons for rock, paper, scissors in the middle. And then on the outside circle for scissors, we have the hand where you are able to hold up the index finger and the middle finger in the shape of the scissors. For paper, we have the open palm, which would represent, you know, just something that might be written later on. And then for the rock would be the fist, which would be Ingi Nagofti. And so the bottom of the screen has Totka, fire. Totka beats Ito. Totka burns Ito. So meaning fire beats wood, fire burns wood. And when you get to Wiwa, water, water beats Totka, which is fire. Water puts out the fire. And then you have Ito, which is the wood, can be a stick or a tree. Ito beats Wiwa because Ito floats. So that would be maybe something that you could add to your, in your languages, to just break the monotony of too much information. Does that kind of make sense, sir?
Quick question, Norma. Are you still wanting to share your the screen with the translations, or are you showing us something else? We're still on the screen with your translation. With your
new share. I am working on this.
There we go.
Now, I'm sorry, I apologize. So back to the screen. The scissors is replaced by the two fingers in the shape of the V, symbolizing the scissors. And paper becomes an open palm. And then the rock is replaced by the fist. And then Totka as fire. Fire, Totka beats Ito, the tree, because Totka as the fire burns the wood, Ito. Wiwa, the water. Water beats Totka because water puts out the fire. And on Ito, the wood, which can be sticks or trees, Ito beats Wiwa because the wood floats on the water. So you can use your own culturally appropriate terminology, you know, your own concepts. But the kids really enjoyed playing rock, paper, scissors in the form of Wiwa, Totka, and Ito. Okay, let me go back to getting this.
That's a fun idea. Somebody just commented on that. Adapting scissors, rocks, paper to cultural context. That's very interesting.
Thank you. Does this, and this is in the circle, you know, because as Native people, we move in the circle. And with Muskogee people in particular, we are in counterclockwise motion. And one of the elders explained that to me many, many years ago when I was in my teaching courses in my undergraduate study. And he told me that our people move in a counterclockwise direction because of the way the pumpkin vine grows. It grows counterclockwise. The watermelon vines, they all go counterclockwise. So that was part of our teaching and training as children. So we would go to the gardens and we'd watch the vines as they were growing out. So that's reinforcing a lot of, you know, a lot of the ideas of what we have been taught by our elders. Okay, I'm going to try this one more time. Let's see, new share. Did these come off the screen once I start a new one?
They will. Yeah.
Okay. And another one that I'm going to share is in the form of a song. And this one is our old counting song. This was before removal. And it's what the grandparents did with the little babies. They, especially the grandfathers, they would place the little babies on their knees and just sing this song and just let the kids have a good time learning it. This is our, I wish I knew how to do the full slides or the slideshow. Here we go. Apparently, I'm not doing this right. I will just sing it to you.
Yes.
And this is our red-headed woodpecker song. Here he goes. Here he goes. Did I back up one? I think I started it too soon. Okay, that's our red-headed woodpecker. Chagala walking, chowe noskin, hamama, hokoko, satoji, nayo, hanhagilida, dava walking, si so. Chagala walking, joe noskin, hamama, hokoko, sotoji, nayo, hanhagilida, tava walking, si so. And so the translation comes as Chagala walking, the woodpecker is lying down. Joe noskin, a deer, a flying squirrel, being cooked. Hamama, look out. That's an old saying. Hama. Sometimes with the little ones, you'll hear, Hama, honka, look out, honka, monster. Hokoko, two kinds. Hoko in our language means two. Sotoji, iso is the squirrel. Idoji is the kidney. Nayo, ina being the body. Yo meaning two. Hanhagilida, something is backing up. Ajagilida means to back up. Dava, walking. Dava being the feather. Walking meaning lying down. Sigil, the dew. And look, that's just an old Muskogee expression that the ancestors and the elders always used. So in the explanation as we were singing this in class, there was an elder gentleman who came to be a part of our class because he heard that we were learning these things. And he said it goes back to an old medicine song. And it also is part of the counting system. I cannot get that to. So there may be other versions in the movement of our people to many areas as far as relocation in maybe the 50s when they were sent to the urban areas to work. And we have many people that are still working and not retired, moving back to this area. So the song may have changed its tune, it may have changed the wording a little, but we still keep these songs dear to our hearts. Do any of you have songs that you use in your teaching of the language or the culture?
There might not be that many in the group that actually teach language. This is a kind of a broader group of faculty, but are there? Maybe there are some. And by the way, that was a great rendition of that song. It was beautiful, charming. Thank you.
Hi, this is Barsane, and yes, I do teach songs through the language. I was a NAFLA immersion teacher for 8 years, and now I work with the Neck College here in Salem, Arizona.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know.
Yeah. You have a song you can share with us?
Not at the moment on PowerPoint, no.
I sometimes find songs will pick up the pace as far as energy levels and pick up the pace when students have been discouraged, maybe because they're not understanding. And I'm trying to get back to the screen. Forevermore, here we go. Okay, I am just. Okay, I'm trying to get back to where I was and I can't find that little icon.
For sharing?
Okay. Another song, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and sing that song because it's our lullaby. And as our people were being moved to Indian Territory in the winter, walking because those who were sick and those who were elders were, if they were able to ride you know, as the soldiers were marching us to Indian Territory, there were just some times that the babies would cry. And there were times when unrest was among, as they were walking to Indian Territory. So there was a little lullaby that the ancestors would sing to the little children. And this is the version that came to our family. There are other tunes out there. There are other translations, but this is the tune that my grandmother and my mother shared with us as we were growing up. Bibi nojas, bibi nojas, jifki kan lujahopogan, ayimada, bibi nojas. And that song says, your mother went turtle hunting and she'll be back. Go to sleep. So that's just kind of, you know, just little things like that have stayed in our family. And the little ones in our family, we're into the 5th generation on my dad's side, 6th generation on my mom's side for the little ones. And so it's it's something that they look forward to. And also our Muskogee hymns, as they were coming, they would sing encouraging songs. But this is the Hallelujah song for the Muskogee people. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. And it just says hallelujah. We'll sing hallelujah. So those are things that we keep, songs, stories, you know, games, any of those items that make the classroom a better place. You know, the students look forward to coming to learn, and a lot of them take these things back home to teach their families. And especially with the reading and writing that we learn in each class level, the family members who speak may not have learned to read it or to write it. So I start with the first reader excerpts in the beginning level of the Muskogee language courses. And then for the intermediate and advanced levels, I take it to the second reader excerpts with the animal stories. And then the conversational class, we just take our everyday speech in our communities and bring it to a conversational level that the students can go home and speak with their elders. And there is also a practicum class for reading and writing. My students learn to read the first part of the semester, and then the second part of the semester, they're working on a Muskogee research paper with the English translation accompanying the Muskogee paper written in sentence structure, MLA format, all the way as a research paper. And then I have another class that I teach called the History of the Muskogee, which alternates with the contemporary Muskogee life. We just start with the history of our people. And we were given the opportunity to help develop the Tribal Employees History course for the Muskogee Nation employees. And there were several people that served on that committee to prepare the coursework. And so that originated out of the History of the Muskogee class here at the College of the Muskogee Nation. The Contemporary Muskogee Life class we take into early tribal government, also into contemporary tribal government, preparing the way for our students to become leaders as national council members, as executive office employees, and maybe even the judicial branch of our government. So all of those things are in preparation for when they leave the college and go into the workforce, whether it's with the tribal government or with outside entities and whatever communities they might live. Everything has a purpose, and so we try to reach that with our students. Do we have any questions?
I've got a quick question.
Okay, do I pull it off a stop share?
Yeah, might as well, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That was really, really interesting. Very, very interesting. Thank you. I have a quick question. Going back to the beginning of your presentation when you talked about how students were you were helping students deal with stress through these traditional concepts, which is, I think, it's really important. Could you talk a little bit more about that, about how connecting to cultural history, cultural values, how that's a vehicle as a way for students to be more resilient, more able to deal with stress? Yeah, if you could talk about that a bit.
Going back to the core values, I think that's where it became more reachable for the students as they understood what we were teaching as far as, anagitchka, love, loving each other, having compassion for each other, and having that eoskita, having that humility with each other, because it puts us all, whatever we're going through, it puts us all on the same page. But we also incorporate that work ethic, adutkita, to teach our students to have those good work ethics, to be diligent to task, and to have that integrity, that wisdom, hobosinga, to learn these things as it was taught to us by our elders, and also how we are learning with each other, because a lot of times these students don't come from those teachings of the intergenerational sharing, and some of them are learning that for the first time. So I generally have students to do journal entries, because if they're not comfortable talking about it at first, they might be able to write it down and express those thoughts and feelings. and to find a place with the things that are deep inside, that healing that needs to begin deep inside. And so when that healing begins inside the student, you know, they start to discover, hey, my people have a philosophy of life. You know, and Muskogee philosophy of life is you take care of others. And that's one thing we talk about in the freshman Comp 2 class a lot. You know, the old ones, when they saw somebody that needed a sack of groceries, they just go put it on the back porch. They didn't knock on the door. They would just leave the groceries and go on. They didn't do it for recognition, and they didn't do it for the accolades of men. They would just do it because there was need. And it was the same with families who had several children. They would pass on clothing to the ones who could use it and not say, hey, I left you a sack of clothes on the back porch or front porch. You know, they just did it to help. And so, you know, in all of these things, there are true accounts of real life stories that really made a difference. And it might have been when somebody was just about to give up, you know, just throw in the towel and just give up. And our students, they recognize that now. Our staff at the college did a day of sharing, a day of giving last fall. And people donated items, food, clothing, you know, things that we could bring to them, encouraging words. And so that day of giving, there were people who just made themselves available to help these students. And one of the guys, one of the young men said, I didn't know anyone cared. And there was one of our teachers, one of our faculty members, wrote on the sandwich bags, "You are loved," and put little snacks inside the sandwich bags. And another young man said, that's the first time anybody has done anything like this for me. So it's passing on those kinds of things. And, you know, our students there are future leaders. You know, they might be reaching a pinnacle in their lives and going out into the workforce, going out into this global society in the midst of everything we're dealing with now. You know, with the pandemic, it's a worldwide thing right now. We're all in this together. And so our students learn those things. I encourage my students to have that prayer life. You know, we have cultural skills classes that we teach on occasion, you know, through the semesters. You know, it's always having to be averaged into our required courses. But we had a flute making class for the cedar flute, bamboo flute, and the river cane flute. We had a pottery class for the Muskogee pottery using clay from the homelands. We had a basket making class using the river cane to make our Muskogee baskets. And we have a unique double false braid that is Muskogee. And so as they do those things, while they're working through the cultural skills, they learn to pray. They learn to meditate and to pray about family members, about self, about others. And so, you know, it brings those things into their lives as well. And we do, you know, we do have our laughter. We just have to have those things to make it in this world, especially with Native people. Did that answer your question, sir?
Oh, it did, very, very much so. What I'm getting, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a real healing at the core of your teaching. You start with healing, and then you go into the language, or you go into history or cultural skills. But the distilled down, the thing that you're really doing is healing. You're starting with the healing. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then you can laugh, you know, because that's your medicine too, is the laughter.
Thank you. That's really good.
Thank
Does anyone else out there, do you have any questions or comments? I don't know if I have to unmute anybody.
I just wanted to say, Mado Mahaya, thank you for sharing this. Thank you, teacher. Thank you, teacher Norma, for sharing this wisdom with us. It was beautiful, and the songs and the stories. And it's good that our workshops are recorded, because I think that I will be watching this for another number of times, because this whole presentation, you know, her presence, you know, I think it's full of healing, and it just helps just to hear these things in these times. So thank you very much, Mado.
Yes, thank you very much. It's an hour, it's been an hour now. So unless anyone has any additional questions or comments, I guess we'll close for today. Is that right? No more questions or comments?
Al, I would like to have a chance to see the chats. I did not have a chance to view those as we were going through this session. Is there a way I can get those later?
Oh, sure. Yes, I'll send them to you. In fact, we're as you know, we're recording the whole thing, and I can just save the chats and send them to you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, as Brigitte was saying, this was great. Thank you so much. Great treatment of such an important topic. So thanks. Thank
Yes,
you.
I hope it helps. Yes, thank you.
And thanks everyone for joining us again this week. We'll be having another workshop next week, same time, Tuesday afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much, and take care and have a great week.